Hey guys, if this is streaming on Facebook, hashtag I'm alive. If you guys are live, I am super excited to be here today with Nathan. Let me just click on into here so I can see your comments. Whoops. Hey guys, hey everyone. Let me make sure I have you guys jumping in. If you guys are jumping in, say hi, hashtag live. I have a very special treat for you guys today. It is a training by none other than Nathan Hirsch. He sold his company Free Up for 8 figures. He knows how to scale. He knows how to hire virtual assistants, and he created a whole system and formula around how to do this the right way because he's able to scale his Amazon company up to 25 million in sales from being ran by virtual assistants. He has a virtual assistant company he just sold. So he's the expert in this, and I want to get you guys to know about Nathan. He actually is going to give us a training today. It's going to be a full-on training, and I'm going to just have him let him take it away. So Nathan, thanks for joining us today, and you can take it away. I'm going to do speaker view. And
yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited. And I mean, I'm going to share my screen in a second, but the training today is all about how my virtual assistant saves me 6.5 weeks a year for less than $30 a week. And I'm going to show you the exact system that I use to set it up. So let me share my screen real quick. I think you need to give me permission to share the screen.
Okay. Make co-host. Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. Share. Let's see. I go to do that view percent. There we go. All right. Can you see it?
Yes.
Awesome. So again, this webinar, this training is all about how my virtual assistant saves me 6.5 weeks a year for less than $30 a week, 260 hours a year. And we're going to talk about that. And more specifically, I'm going to show you how you can set this up too with my easy to implement system. Again, my name is Nathan Hirsch. I'm an outsourcing expert. I grow businesses with virtual assistants. I had an Amazon business that I'll talk about that I scaled with VAs. I just scaled an 8-figure business and sold it with VAs. And my new venture, Outsource School, who is putting on this training, is run by virtual assistants. So I know it can be done, and there's nothing that I like more than teaching other people how to do it. So hopefully you guys learn a lot from this, and I'll be available at the end. So to start off, you are in the right place. If you have a business, even if it's a huge business, a big one, but you're doing too much yourself, or at least you know you won't be able to grow further without hiring help. A lot of business owners, they get to the point where they're making money, their business is growing, their business is big, but they're kind of tapped out. They're working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, and they know that if they want to take it to the next level, whether that next level is 7 figures, 8 figures, whatever it is, they're going to need more help, and they're going to need processes and systems so it doesn't all revolve around them. Or if you guys are listening and you are a newer business and you're just getting off the ground, hiring virtual assistants is one of the smartest things you can do early on in your business. So the earlier that you learn how to hire and delegate, the better your business is going to be, and it's going to help you for every business you have going forward. I always tell people that if I could do it over again, I wouldn't necessarily have focused on every small tactic, every strategy. I would have focused on learning how to hire, because that gives me a huge head start over my competition. So I think I went back a slide. Let's see. Hold on.
You are in the top right-hand corner. Do you want your video to be there, or I stop your video?
I will lower that. One of my slides got messed up, but it is all right. So traditional hiring is dying. I'm going to turn off my camera if I can do that.
I can do that.
All right, sweet. So traditional hiring is dying, and it's dying for a reason. It's never been harder as a small business to hire talent. If you're a startup, you have to compete with the other big companies out there. Not to mention, more and more people in the US are starting their own business. They're freelancing. They're not trying to just work for your company or just be committed to one client. And they're not looking to be followers, the people that you have in your business that are following your systems, your processes that you really need. And the gig economy is growing so fast that over the next 10 years or so, they predict that over 50% of people that would be looking for jobs are going to be freelancing and working for themselves. So that makes it really hard to hire, not to mention just the cost of a hire. If you're a startup, an average employee, and this isn't even a big salary, could be $50,000 a year, or whatever you pay in your region, could be 70, could be 40, but that really costs you 1.3 to 1.4 times what you're actually paying them. Once you factor in benefits and other stuff like that, that $50,000 a year employee really gets closer to 7. So it's never been harder to do that traditional hiring that people were used to so long ago. Not to mention the cost of a bad hire has never been bigger. Factor in recruitment costs, recruitment time, negative impact, disruption to current clients and projects. It hurts your brand, especially if those people are interacting with your customers, repeating onboarding time and all of that. And it's predicted that a bad hire can really cost you about $240,000. That's a bad hire in the US. So it's never been harder. The risk has never been more. And the cost, if you get it wrong, is through the roof. And I even have an example here of Norman, he was a client of mine on FreeUp. He's a member now at Outsource School. He made a bad hiring decision. He hired this was a VA, not a US employee, but he hired a family to run his business. And his thought was, hey, I'll hire this family. They kind of know Amazon already. They'll run my business. And he also made a mistake of not owning the systems and processes in his business, which a lot of people like to do. They're like, hey, hiring's hard. I don't want to build systems. I'm just going to hire people that already know how to do it and have them run my day-to-day. So his business is running, that family's running his business. He doesn't own the systems. And one day he pisses off one of the people in that family and the entire family quits on him. The entire team is just gone on that one day. And they took the systems with them. So it just goes to show you, and we helped him learn how to hire and build systems and get a team back together and be more diversified before. But bad hiring is scary. It can cost you a lot of money. And if you make hiring mistakes, it can really hurt your business. Oh my God. What is going on? I clicked on a link. There we go. So most entrepreneurs are also doing everything themselves. So their business doesn't run without them. They're stressed out. They're wasting time and money. They feel like they don't have time to hire, and their business isn't necessarily scaling the way they want them to. A website called Gallup found that 39% of the owners that they surveyed work over 60 hours a week. And while I was young once, I'm 31 now, but in my young 20s, I was like, oh, I can work 60 hours a week forever. I love my business. And eventually you realize that you cannot do that forever. At some point, you're going to have to learn how to hire, how to delegate if you want to grow your business. And a lot of people have objections here. So they've got the objection of confusion. They've got the objection of fear and risk and ability. So I want to kind of go through a few of these. First is ability. I don't have an MBA. I'm not the smartest person in the world. Hiring is just like any other skill set. You can learn how to do it. And a lot of people, they struggle with the ability mostly because they are confused. And that's what I'm going to go through today. I'm going to give you step-by-step how you can go about creating a good hiring process that's repeatable over time. People are also scared. Your business is your baby, and you don't want to give up the systems and the operations of your baby. You don't want to put someone in a position where they can really hurt your company. But I have news for you. The average virtual assistant cares so much more about providing for their family and keeping you as a client and staying on whatever marketplace you hire them for and keeping their revenue stream and getting referrals than they do about jeopardizing or hurting your business. And that risk is always going to be there. I mean, even if you hire your best friend to sit right next to you, there's always a chance they do something stupid or jeopardize your business in some way. So you have to get over that risk if you want to hire, but really the risk is a lot lower than people think. I've been hiring VAs for years with FreeUp. I help people hire thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands really of hours of VAs and never had a serious issue. I'm sure if I hire enough people, eventually something will happen, but the risk is a lot smaller than people think. And lastly is money and time. And I want to go through a little bit of math here for you so you can see what that money and time looks like, and how you really, if you want to value your time, hiring virtual assistants is really the way to do it. You got to get out of the mentality of, I don't have time to hire someone. You really should, you're really going to get more time back. If you take a $5 an hour virtual assistant and you hire them for just 5 hours a week, because remember, you don't have to hire them 40 hours a week, you can hire them part-time. It's going to cost you $25 a week. That's the cost of ordering a meal or less, depending on where you're buying from. That's going to cost you $1,300 a year. Is 6.5 weeks of your year worth $1,300? For most of you, it is. For most of you, your time is worth way, way more than that. So when you put it in perspective like that, how much time are you wasting by not just hiring a virtual assistant for 5 hours a week? So hopefully that helps you get over your objections a little bit. We can talk about that more after. And I want you to remember that I was there once too. I started an Amazon business when I was in college. You can see me here with a lot more hair than I have now. And as I was scaling this Amazon business, I was stressed out of my mind. I was working 60, 70 hours a week. I was making money, but I hit that wall where I could not grow anymore if I didn't hire. So I hired college kids, and I hired a lot of college kids, and that didn't work out. They were unreliable. They were smoking weed on the job and drinking and oversleeping. And so then I started hiring US adults, and I was hiring people for $50,000 to $70,000 a year. And I wasted so much money because I couldn't motivate them. I made bad hires. And I finally got into the virtual assistant space, and I loved the upside of it, the cheapness, the fact that I could hire people all over the world at different price points, different availability. And I spent years and years figuring out a good hiring process with VAs, because I still had people that wouldn't follow directions, and I would interview them and they would seem good, and then they wouldn't turn out to be good. Or I would invest time, money, and energy into training them, and they would quit on me, and there would be turnover. And finally, after years and years and years, I finally figured out how to have a good hiring system to hire virtual assistants. And my life changed. I created an 8-figure business called FreeUp that was acquired at the end of last year. And this business was completely run by virtual assistants. There was no office, no US employees. It was me, my business partner, Connor, and 35 virtual assistants in the Philippines running an 8-figure business. And we were able to do this because we had spent time creating a really good hiring process, a lot of which I'm going to teach it to you today. I also go now on different podcasts. You can see me here with Roland Frazier talking about hiring virtual assistants. This is what I do now. I teach people how to build outsourced teams. I just presented at War Room, which is a $30,000 a year mastermind. I did that a few weeks ago because these are the highest level entrepreneurs in the world. And they know that whether it's COVID or for whatever other reason, just that it was going this direction anyway, that times are changing. And if you don't know how to hire virtual teams and take advantage of virtual assistants and create good systems and good processes, you're going to struggle over the next 10 to 20 years, because that's the direction everything's going. And I go on a lot of podcasts as well. And I actually hire VAs to get me on podcasts. So it's one of the tasks that I hire virtual assistants for. So you can get creative in how you hire them. But enough about me. On this webinar, we're going to go through a bunch of stuff, but the really important stuff is I'm going to teach you the step that most entrepreneurs forget to do before they hire a virtual assistant. And this costs them tons of time, tons of money. I'm also going to go through the key mistake that you are most likely making after you interview a virtual assistant. That's a big one that a lot of people miss. And I'm going to show you how to avoid the training trap, because so many entrepreneurs, one of the reasons they get frustrated with virtual assistants is they start doing one-on-one training from day one. And then they get to the point where they're a week in and the virtual assistant's not working out. And then they just wasted a week of their life that they're never going to get back. And then they don't want to hire anymore. So I'm going to teach you how to avoid that. So let's start off with, what is a virtual assistant? Because a lot of people define virtual assistants differently. For me, there's 3 different levels of people you can hire. You've got followers, you've got doers, and you've got experts. So followers, they're there to follow your systems, your processes. That's what I consider a virtual assistant. Some people think that anyone that works from home is a virtual assistant. I like to define it just as the followers. If you don't have systems and processes, you can't hire a virtual assistant. You can't just say, hey, I don't know how to run Facebook ads, go run my Facebook ads. That's not going to work out too well for you. You need to have systems and processes. The other levels are the doers. You've got the specialists, the graphic designers, the writers, the video editors. You're not teaching a graphic designer how to be a graphic designer, but they're not consulting with you either. They're there to do that one task at a high level. Then you've got the experts, the high-level freelancers, consultants, agencies. They could be $50,000 an hour. They could be $50 an hour, but they're there to bring their own systems, their own process to the table. And they're there to consult with you, to bring strategy. And just like you wouldn't hire a follower if you didn't have systems and processes, you wouldn't hire an expert and say, hey, I'm going to pay you top dollar. You've had success doing it your way, but I'm going to teach you to do it my way. That doesn't make sense either. So step one in hiring is just understanding the three different levels, the followers, the doers, and the experts. You're going to need all three at some point as an entrepreneur. You're going to have hire experts. You're going to have to hire doers. You're going to have to hire followers. But if you can't hire followers, you're going to struggle to hire the doers and the experts. It's a lot easier to hire a follower when you have systems than it is to hire an expert when you're not an expert at something. So I'm going to teach you how to hire virtual assistants. That's the followers. And keep this in mind as you hire for the rest of your life. Every time you need to hire for something, do I need a follower? Do I need a doer, or do I need an expert? Kim, I don't know if you have any questions or you want to jump in here. If not, I'll keep going.
Oh yeah. Am I supposed to, I can talk during this time, but
you don't have to.
I
talk fast. I want to make sure I'm not losing.
I want to say hey to everyone who joined. So that's what I want to do. Hey, Tuan. Hey, Hugh. Hey, Shelly. Shelly says she has 600 people on her team. Hey, Jackie. Hey, guys. Hey, Donna. Donna is asking if there will be a recording. Yes. So right after this, you guys, there will be a replay. So once this ends, it's going to be inside the group and it'll be available for replay. Hey, Simon. Hey, guys. If you guys are just jumping in, there is going to be a Chrome extension giveaway just for sticking through this live and attending this live. So hashtag giveaway if that's what you're looking forward to. And I'm going to let Nathan just continue. Nathan, I can chime in, but usually when you're doing your webinar thing, I don't want to interrupt too much.
Cool. You're good. I just want to make sure everyone's still here.
Yeah, we're all here. We're good. You're not talking to an empty room. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So some of the benefits of hiring a VA are less overhead. I got an office once. It was one of the worst business decisions I ever made. And I think a lot of people who had an office, at least right now, might be regretting that. You don't need to hire people full-time. If you went back 20 years ago, you had to hire everyone full-time or in your office or in the town around you. Now you can hire people part-time, project-based, full-time if you want to. You can also hire people all over the world, whether it's the US or different countries. People that work different time zones that you can have them work overnight. A lot of our businesses now run 24/7. So that gives you a huge advantage. And yes, you can find plenty of people that work your time zone. And lastly, it's going to make your business more sellable. I know when we went to sell FreeUp, the fact that we had no office, so no overhead, no lease to take over, the fact that we had a very affordable, reliable team, that made us incredibly attractive to buyers. So tons of benefits of hiring those followers, those virtual assistants. And if you just try to hire those experts and those doers, remember, they own your systems. They own the systems of your business. You want to own your systems. That's going to give you a lot more leverage as you go about hiring. So before you even start interviewing, and there's 4 levels of hiring: interviewing, onboarding, training, and managing. Before you even start interviewing, you need to know what tasks you give a virtual assistant. So what I recommend doing is creating 2 lists. Now, the second list is for the doers and the experts. That's everything that needs to get done that you're not good at. And you should definitely create those lists, although we're not going to go through that today. So if you're not good at Facebook ads, you're not good at email marketing, like write those things down, and you need to hire doers and experts to do those things. But the list that I want to challenge you guys to create is the list of all the things you do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. It could be scheduling social media posts. It could be adding lines into QuickBooks and Xero. It could be responding to emails or booking meetings, booking podcasts, doing research, lead generation. All those tasks, create a list of them and order them from easiest to hardest and pick that easiest task. Try to pick something that gets you 5 hours a week back. That's going to be your starting point. The easiest task that takes you around 5 hours a week, that's where you're going to hire your first virtual assistant for. And then once you have some success, then you're going to start chipping away down that list and figuring out other things you can outsource. And you're going to learn a lot. It's going to become addictive and you're going to want to do it more and more. Then you also have to figure out what your hiring budget is. And to do that, you have to understand how much a virtual assistant costs. We mentioned before that a virtual assistant can be around $5 an hour. I usually like to factor in $5 to $8 an hour as a good range, just because maybe you give them raises or a bonus here and there, or maybe they work 45 hours a week instead of 40. So $5 to $8 an hour. And you can go to outsourceschool.com/VA calculator if you want a really cool tool that just does the math for you on how many virtual assistants you can afford. But you want to figure out how much money do you make every month? How aggressive do you want to be? If you're trying to go all out and build a business, maybe you're investing 50% of your profits into hiring. I've been there before. Or if you're more conservative, maybe you only want to invest 10% of your profits into hiring. I tend to hire around 20 to 30%. So every month I like to look at, hey, I made X amount of money. What's 20 to 30% of that? Then that's going to tell me how many I can afford or how much I can pay to people. And then you can divide that up at $5 an hour, $8 an hour, whatever number you want to use on how many VAs you can actually afford. And if you use this calculator, it'll tell you, hey, you can afford four full-time VAs, or you can afford 2 part-time VAs, whatever that is. And then from there, you know how many VAs you can afford. You know what tasks you want to get off your plate first, second, and third. And then you can begin the hiring process.
Oh, I want to kind of interrupt. I want to ask you guys, hey, Francis, thanks for joining in. Ramsey, do you guys know that this is the average? When I thought about hiring someone online, I always thought that it has to be really, really expensive. Really, I thought that I have to hire like an A player right away. And I didn't know that I could get help at $5 an hour. That means for $25, I have 5 hours of a virtual assistant's time. Let me know if you know that this is the average. Hashtag yes if you do know yes. And then it's just something that I would not know. And it's cool that you have a calculator, because with a calculator, it'll open up your eyes to, wow, how many can you afford? You don't have to go at this alone. So I really like that you included this as part of your slide, Nathan. But go on.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps people. Yeah, that's the number one question that I get is how much does it really cost? So that $5 to $8 an hour range is a really good range. And I'm not going to actually show you later one of my VAs who I pay $8 an hour. You'll see her pretty soon. So where should I hire virtual assistants from? I personally like to hire from the Philippines, and I do this for a lot of different reasons. First of all, the average wage in the Philippines is $12 a day. So paying $5 an hour beats that by a lot. It gives them a really great opportunity to work from home. Traffic is bad. They can be around their families. I also love what I found in a lot of people from the Philippines. They have great work ethic. They're all about family. They live in large families. Their churches are family. They have outside communities that are family. And when I'm building a team, I want them to be a family. They also learn English in school. I only speak English, although I'm learning Vietnamese. So that's very beneficial for me. And there are plenty of other great places to hire them from. But my biggest thing and my biggest tip, and this is going to sound obvious after I say it, is if you're hiring VAs for the first time and you're building a team for the first time, try not to hire like 2 people from one country and 2 people from another and 1 person from another country, only because with every culture, there's a learning curve. You're going to have to learn about their culture, what they care about, how you communicate with them effectively. And if you're hiring all from one place, you're going to learn a lot, and everything you learn applies to your entire team. Whereas if you hire from all over, you're constantly going to be learning different cultures and going back and forth. And it's going to speed up that learning curve a lot if you have a lot of people with one team. Now, I mentioned there are followers, doers, and experts. Usually my rule is I'll hire doers and experts from other places. Like I have a graphic designer who's a doer who's from India. I have a developer who's a doer or an expert from the US. But for followers, I usually like to stick to the Philippines. That's where I've had a lot of success from. And you also don't need to go to the Philippines to hire from the Philippines. I've only been there one time, and I hired people for 5 years before that. And I've got plenty of VAs that I've never met in person. So you don't actually have to go to the Philippines. And where do you find virtual assistants from if you're looking to hire from the Philippines? I'm going to I'm going to let you know that I am biased. I built the FreeUp Marketplace, but I still use the FreeUp Marketplace. So if you are looking to hire a virtual assistant or hire a freelancer, I recommend checking them out. At the same time, and I have no affiliation with them, everything that I teach you today and everything that I teach at Outsource School can apply to anywhere that you go and hire. You can take our systems and go to Upwork. You can take our systems and go to a Facebook group or hire wherever you want to, but FreeUp is always a good resource for you. And I don't even own FreeUp anymore, and I still hire my VAs from FreeUp. So that should tell you something. So I mentioned there are 4 parts of the hiring process. You've got interviewing, onboarding, training, and managing. And the first part of this webinar, this training, I kind of wanted to go through the objections. I wanted to give you a little background on me so you know why I talk about VAs all the time. I wanted to let you know some of the things that you need to think about and do and understand before you hire, like what are the different hiring levels, how do you set a budget, and what are some tasks to take off your plate and how to create those lists. But now I want to dive into the hiring process because each one of these is incredibly important. And I want to go through mistakes that I see people make all the time. So it starts off with interviewing a virtual assistant. And you have to understand that what a lot of people do with interviewing is they only care about experience. And you can see that we have an acronym here called CARE, which stands for communication, attitude, red flag, and experience. So what most people do is they'll hire someone, and I've done this before. They have 5 years of experience on WordPress, or they have 5 years of experience being a VA, and you hire them, and then you're like, whoa, how did this not work out? Like, well, how does someone that has so much experience such a bad fit for my company? And that's because you are only vetting for one thing. And for me, I'm looking for a trifecta of communication, attitude, and experience. For experience, I don't need everyone I hire to be a 10 out of 10. They can be a 5 out of 10. They can be a 3 out of 10. What I care about is that they're honest about what they can and cannot do, and that they're priced accordingly. If they're a follower, they're priced like a follower. If they're an expert, they're priced like an expert. But then,
I want to interrupt. I want to ask you guys, who here has hired and you just spent so much money and that person took up all your time? Who here hired because of experience? I've had that happen to me before as well. So I thought that since they're such an expert that they would take care of me. Let me know if you can relate, #relate, if you ever tried hiring and it's just not the right fit because you thought that they're such an expert, but it turns out that they're really not available with you. They don't communicate that well with you, even though they have all this experience. Let me know in the comments. Go on, Nathan. Sorry.
Yeah, I think anyone that's hired for a while has definitely had that experience. And it took me years to figure out that you need to get all 3 from someone. And I'll explain red flags, that's separate, but you need attitude, communication, and experience. So for attitude, I want someone who's passionate about what they do. They're not just, money isn't the number one thing they care about. I mean, everyone cares about money on some level, but there's always going to be someone out there that can pay your virtual assistants more money than you can. So they need to care about something else, whether it's self-improvement, whether it's being a part of something bigger than them. Maybe it's just stability. They're a stay-at-home mom and they want a stable job that they can contribute to and learn from. So you want them to have great attitude and you want them to be the bigger man, the bigger woman in every situation. I think we've all had clients that aren't rainbows and butterflies, but if your client says something to them, or maybe you give feedback to them and they take it personally and they can't handle it and they can't be professional, that's not the kind of attitude that I want to work with. And then lastly, it's communication. And this is why we recommend doing all interviews via Slack or Skype. Don't do video interviews unless it's a video or a phone call type role, which most VA roles are not, because you want to see, hey, if I'm going to normally communicate with my VA on Slack, they're normally going to be responding to emails. how do they communicate on Slack? Can I understand what they're saying? Do they respond quickly? Can they understand what I'm saying? Do we get on the same page very fast? So you want to see, hey, can this virtual assistant communicate with me at a very high level? So you're looking for that trifecta of communication, attitude, and experience. And what a lot of entrepreneurs do is they look for the right answers, but you want to look for the wrong answers. You want to look for the red flags. What is this virtual assistant saying that shows that they don't have the experience they say they do? They don't have the attitude that I want, and they don't have the communication that I need in my business. When you focus on the wrong answers and you flip your mentality when you're hiring, and I encourage all of you to do this going forward, you're going to start looking for and seeing these red flags. And it's going to show you who doesn't have that experience, who doesn't have that attitude, and who doesn't have that communication. So that's my big tips for interviewing. Make sure you find someone that doesn't have just one, doesn't have just two, has all three: experience, attitude, and communication. And make sure you're looking for the red flags as you interview them, and make sure that you're interviewing them on Slack or on Skype or on some kind of messaging tool so you can see how they really interact on a day-to-day basis. And that doesn't mean you can't do a video chat with them afterwards or something like that, but the majority of your interviews should be on that text platform. And a lot of great VAs just aren't good on camera. So you're going to eliminate a lot of people if you force them to get on camera, especially when camera has nothing to do with the actual role that they're going to be doing. So what happens when you interview using the CARE method? You get rock star virtual assistants like my VA, Anna. She is incredible. And she costs $8 an hour. I actually started her at $5. She was so good. I made her a team leader. I increased her pay to $8. She works 40 hours a week for me. She does client phone calls. She does client Zooms. She manages my VA team now. If you go on the Outsource School YouTube channel, you can actually see an interview, a video of me interviewing her. She's incredible. And my goal is to get you an Anna, or you a team of Annas. And if you follow the CARE interview process and onboarding, which I'm about to teach you, that's how you can get rockstar virtual assistants that make your life so much easier day in and day out. And if you stick around to the end, I actually have a special offer for you that includes Anna for a limited amount of people. So stay tuned.
Wait. Hold on. So if you guys stick around, there is a very special offer in the end where it includes Anna to a limited amount. And also I'm doing a giveaway of a brand new extension as well. So if you guys are gonna stick around to the end, I have a keyword. A lot of my lives are like interactive Easter egg hunt. So listen for that keyword that I'm gonna drop. Once I drop that keyword, post it into the comments and you will be able to grab that free extension as well. So thanks for being on here, you guys. Hey, Shelly, thanks for engaging. So make sure you smash that heart button. The more you engage, the more chances you have of winning also of the Chrome extension. So go ahead, Nathan, continue.
Awesome. So what types of issues do people have with virtual assistants? I think anyone here that's hired a while, you've probably seen a lot of the common issues, but the way that you prevent these issues is by having a good onboarding process. So there's 5 types of issues people have. It's personal issues, power, internet, computer, and weather. I'll say that again: personal, power, internet, computer, and weather. And what a lot of people do is they jump right from the interviews to training their virtual assistant. They'll say, hey, Jane, that was a great interview. I want to hire you at $5 an hour. Let's start on Monday. And what we teach people to do, and if you take anything away from this hour, this is it. This is something that's going to save you so much time and hassle down the line. What we teach people to do is we go, hey, Jane, that was a great interview. I want to hire you at $5 an hour, but first I'm going to take you through my onboarding process. And we call our onboarding process the SICK method, SICC. And we teach you, we go to Jane and we say, first, I want to make sure you're actually good with $5 an hour. What if she got another job offer for more? What if her other client's paying her 10 and we didn't know that? Make sure they're actually good with $5 an hour. And then I'm also going to go through what our bonus and raise programs look like. So if I give a bonus or a raise of 50 cents every year or every 6 months even, and they're expecting to go from 5 to 10 in a year, that's not going to blow up on me now, but that's going to blow up on me in a year. So I want to get on the same page with rate, with bonuses, with raises, make sure the VA is no doubt 100% happy with it before I move on to the SICK method. So the SICK method stands for schedule, issues, communication, and culture. So with schedule, and this is a 20 to 30 minute meeting, it's not a 4-hour meeting, but this 20 to 30 minute meeting is going to save you hours and hours and hours of hassle down the line. In the meeting, you go through schedule. What's a schedule for me? Have they worked that schedule before, especially if it's US hours? I don't want someone trying US hours for the first time with me. What other clients do you have? I want to know all their other clients. What are the schedules for those clients? How many total hours a week are they working? I want to make sure they're not working 80 hours a week and on their additional 40 on top of that. I want to know what other commitments they have. Maybe they can't work Sundays, or once a day they have to drive their kid to work, or to drive their kid to school, or whatever it is. I want to get 100% on the same page there. And then I'm going to go through the issues that I just talked about: the computer, power, weather, personal. And I'm going to, for each issue, I'm going to find out how often do they have that issue. What is the backup plan when they have that issue? Because I don't work with VAs that if they lose internet, they just can't work for 2 weeks until their internet gets back. They need to have a place they can go, a backup hotspot, whatever it is. And then I'm also going to go through how they're going to communicate that issue. Because again, if they lose power, they can't just show up in 3 days and say, oh, got my power back. They have to figure out a way to contact me or contact someone on our team. And listen, backup plans fail. Even my best VAs, they'll lose power, their backup plan fails. There's nothing they can do about it, but at least they communicate it to us. They let us know, they make up the work later, and that's okay. But if you're going through these issues and the person has no backup plan for anything and they have these issues all the time, that's a huge red flag that you want to probably not work with that virtual assistant. Then we go through communication. So I use email, I use Slack, I use Viber, I use them in different ways. I'm going to go through with the virtual assistant the channels I use. I'm also going to go through any software I use. Maybe the VA doesn't like the software I use. I'm also going to, if I use a time doctor or Hubstaff or something to track time, which I actually personally don't do. I think it hurts trust with the VA. But if you are going to do that, make sure you tell them now. I've seen clients that will train the VA and then they'll say, oh, by the way, I need you to use Time Doctor. And the VA sitting there like, wait a second, you never mentioned that. You never brought this up. I wouldn't have agreed to the job if you told me this. So make sure you let them know all the tools that are required of them during that communication. And lastly, you go over culture. And I could talk about culture for an hour, but bottom line, I make it clear to them that they no matter how talented they are, if they're not a culture fit, it's not going to work out. So we go through rate, we go through bonuses and raises, we go through schedule, we go through issues, we go through communication, we go through culture in a 20 to 30 minute meeting. And then I give the VA a chance to back out, because I would much rather the VA says, your expectations are too high, your expectations not in line, I don't want the job anymore, whatever it is, than for me to figure that out 2 months in. And this 20 to 30 minute conversation going through the SICK method is going to save you tons and tons of hours down the line. Whenever someone comes to me and they say, oh, I always have VA issues, or my VA is terrible, my first question to them is always, how did you onboard the virtual assistant? Because it almost always comes down to a bad onboarding process. So the constant question, which we kind of addressed before a little bit, what if I don't have time to hire and train a virtual assistant? So that's where SOPs and training comes into play. And we have a cool software called Simply SOP that you can check out to create SOPs. But with training, and I mentioned the training trap, you don't want to do that one-on-one training. You don't want to train someone for a week and then realize they're not good and lose an entire week of your life. A much better way is to interview them with the care process, onboard them with the SICK method, and then give them an SOP. An SOP is a standard operating procedure. I'll talk about that in a second, but you want to give them the SOP, and maybe it's a huge SOP. I've had some that are 50 pages long with video. I've had others that are very, very short. You give them an hour, you give them a week, you give them a day, whatever makes sense depending on the size of the SOP, and you pay them, because I believe in paying them for their time, Pay them to just go through the SOP and ask questions. And I let them know, hey, I'm there to support you. My team's there to support you. But at the end of whatever that time period is that makes sense, you're going to test them. You're going to quiz them. You haven't invested any of your own time outside of the interview and the onboarding, which is necessary. And even that together is probably like an hour, maybe 2 hours max. You're going to go through and test them. And if they get 80% of it, great. Then you can do one-on-one training, get them that last 20%, and you've protected your investment. If you give them the SOP and they come back and they don't know really anything, or they're not understanding, or they know 20% of it, no problem. You pay them for their time, you part ways, and yeah, it cost you a little bit of money, but it didn't really take up any of your time, and you got to value time over money. So don't fall into that one-on-one training trap. Fall into the habit of creating an SOP, hiring a VA, giving them the SOP, and having them prove to you that they understand the SOP before you invest that one-on-one training.
Hey, Nathan,
so now you're
I want to interrupt you again. So this idea or this training, this slide is super valuable, because I asked you guys, like, who here has spent all this time, you hired your first hire, you feel so precious that now you're a boss, and then you spent all this time doing one-on-one calls with that person, just hoping that they'll be your rock star person, and then they just ghost you. And I know some of you guys are like, yes, that happened to me before. So let me know if that has happened to you. #relate, if you can relate to that. Oh my gosh. And this method is just brilliant, Nathan. So I'm so glad that you're teaching us this today. This is a great, great method to save your time and not spend all this time with your first hire and then just, oh my gosh, they find that it's just too much, or they just don't get it. And by then you've invested so much of your time. So thank you for this.
Yeah, no problem. And hopefully that helps. And so if you're going to do that process, you need a good SOP. So how do you create a good SOP? You do it by breaking it down into 3 parts: the why, the steps, and the important reminders, or what I like to call the do not do for any reason list. So what a lot of people do is they'll just put the steps, like, hey, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 10. Here you go, VA, and go do it. And you're missing the why. The more the VA understands why they're doing the task, the better they're going to be at the task. So if you're teaching them to post on social media, explain to them why you're having them post on social media. Who's your ideal customer? Who are you trying to get in front of? What does success look like? What does failure look like? I'll even go through and I'll say, hey, the last VA I hired didn't work out. I won't name them by name, but I'll say for XYZ reason. So before the VA even gets to the steps, they understand why they're doing it and what success and failure looks like. Then I go through the steps, and I mentioned we have a cool Simply SOP tool for this. Videos are always better than text. Video and text together are great, but videos are a pain because when you're recording videos, they just get outdated. SOPs get outdated just as you're a startup and you grow and you improve processes. But Google Docs are a lot easier to update. A video, you have to hire a video editor or refilm the whole thing. So with our tool, you can do video, you can do text, but as you record video, you mark steps as you go. So if you need to replace step 2, you can easily do that in the software. You can even give your VA access and have them do it in the software. And it just saves you a ton of time, and it has all your SOPs in one place, and you can share them and all that. But regardless, break it down into steps, break it down into sub steps, but make sure you have that why first. And then finally, you want the important reminders, the do not do list. So I have a VA that runs my inbox, and the important reminders say, hey, if my accountant emails me, if my lawyer emails me, do not respond to that email for any reason. Make sure that you leave those emails for me. And so what a lot of entrepreneurs will do is they'll hide all the important stuff, the really, really important stuff, inside step 10, part C, and then the VA will miss it, and then the entrepreneur will get frustrated, and then they don't want to hire VAs anymore. Take all the important stuff, it can be in the steps too, but make a list at the bottom of all the top things that they need to know. And if the VA is still missing it, even though you created a list of important things, then you probably need to get a different virtual assistant. So break down your SOPs into the why, into the steps, and into the important reminders. And managing, which I could talk, managing is just so much stuff, right? It's how to run meetings, which I recommend running a weekly meeting on Monday. I recommend having a performance review once a quarter with the VA. We use that as an opportunity to give them a small bonus and show appreciation. I also recommend having a a team meeting each week. So if I have a billing team and I have a social media team and I have a customer service team, each team has a meeting each week. So an everyone meeting on Monday, a team meeting once a week, and a performance review once a quarter. Bonuses and raises, I usually recommend between 50 cents to $1 every 6 to 9 months. I always recommend instead of paying someone a bonus at the end of the year, take the amount that you would pay them at the end of the year, which is usually about the cost of a month, and just divide that out per every 6 months or per every quarter and use that bonus as an opportunity to help them. I also recommend thinking ahead of who would be a good team leader, an assistant team leader, which we teach you how to do. I don't want to go too much into that. But the main thing that you have to understand is you don't want to have 35 VAs all reporting to Nathan. That gets a little bit crazy. But you also don't want to wake up one day and say, oh, I need a team leader. Who should that team leader be? And hiring externally for a team leader is very risky. It's possible, but it's risky. You have to hire someone externally, then you have to teach them your business, and then you have to hope that they can lead people that have already been with your business for a while. So it's much better if you can promote from within. And the way that you're able to promote from within is
Oh yeah, if you like that video, then you will love all the resources that I have over at kimcdang.com. That is KIMCDANG.com. There you will find all my courses, my extensions, all the offers that I have, as well as a lot of free resources if you are just getting started.